the Civil War, it seems like slavery was an afterthought. And this is what I've come to understand here from all of my absorption. I'm like a saturated sponge at this point, coming from the past week. Lincoln, as a younger man, was very much against slavery. He saw the worst in it, which is exactly what the rest of us see. He saw the same thing. It was an atrocity, right? But as he got closer to the seat of power, that became less of a point to talk about because it was this divisive. So it's like one of those things. If you want to run for president today, you don't talk about abortion, right? You leave that, you run away from stuff like that. Well, back then that would have been the issue, so you stay away from it. But he made it clear coming into office that he didn't want to touch it. When the South seceded, for their reasons, Lincoln made it very clear, and there's quotes all over the place, that he wouldn't touch slavery. He'd rid it if it meant saving the Union. He'd leave it if it meant saving the Union. He'd go 50-50 on the deal if it meant saving the Union. He just wanted to save the Union. He wanted to keep it together, didn't want it to fall apart under his watch. He liked the idea of the Union. Well, that's great and wonderful. He also turned around and then invaded a sovereign country, which was the South. And it wasn't until he was losing that war that he came to the realization that he needed more volunteers. He needed more people in the army. He needed to do something because he was losing, and he needed to turn the tide. And he came up with the idea for freeing the slaves, and then the slaves would then join the Union Army and fight against the those rebels from the South. Right? Great idea. Except the backlash that would have come from the white troops at the time in the Union Army. And the fear was that if the Union Army came to an understanding that they were fighting to free the black people in the South, that they wouldn't fight. They would turn and go home. They wouldn't carry on the war. So Lincoln was in a quandary. He knew he needed to do it, but he had to find the right way of doing it without his troops actually, becoming aware that he was actually doing it. And they put it off until the right time presented itself. And then when he did present it, it only freed those slaves who were in those states that were no longer, states of the Union.